Hi, Phyllis here from southernfrugal.com. I'm getting ready to make some Salisbury steak, and I want to show you the ingredients. We've got 3 pounds of ground chuck. Now this is lean ground chuck. Now to this, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 1/4 cups of dried breadcrumbs, 3 large eggs thoroughly beaten. And I'm going to mix this up with my hands. So mix that just a little bit. I'm going to pour the eggs in. And just mix it up very thoroughly. And I ran out of little plastic gloves, so I'm having to use my hands today. Generally, I use the little plastic gloves because it makes cleanup a lot easier. Just squish this all together. Now this is going to make enough Salisbury steak for 8 people. And the reason I'm making so much is not because we're having company, but because it freezes very well. So I'm going to be freezing 6 of these, and 2 of them we'll have for lunch. Now, while I'm fixing this, I'm also boiling some potatoes in my little potato cooker, because this Salisbury steak with the gravy goes really well with creamed potatoes. And we're also going to have those little itty-bitty frozen green peas. Alright, I've got this pretty thoroughly mixed. Now I want 8 patties, and I'm going to form them like little oval shaped loaves, really. So I'm going to divide it in half. Then I'm going to divide it again. So now that I've got 4 sections, I'm going to divide those so that my little patty loaves are all pretty much the same size. Okay, now I'm going to form that into sort of an oblong little patty. Just like that. See? And again, we're going to have 8 of those, so it'll be enough to freeze. And these are fairly large patties. Now, while I'm finishing forming these, I'm going to go ahead and turn my skillet on with unwashed hands. So that means I'll have to wash my burner button off. And I'm going to put that on right at medium high. Now I've got a little bit of oil in the skillet, but I'm going to go ahead and get them all formed first. Again, you want to make sure that you get the lean ground chuck. And try to make them as much the same size as you can. Alright, there's 4. This is a little smaller, so I need to add a little more to that. And this does usually go pretty quick. So, I mean, you could, like, pretty well come home from work. Oops, better add a little bit of that. Come home from work and have this ready probably in about 45 minutes. And, of course, if you're cooking this, just a lot more economical if you go ahead and fix maybe for 2 or 3 meals. And that way, when you come home from work another day, maybe a week later, your meat will already be cooked, and all you have to do is add vegetables and bread and whatever you drink to the meal, and you've got the meal. And you can, I freeze these actually in the plates that I or the little square bowls, or little Pyrex bowls, and I can take them right out of the freezer and put them right straight into the microwave, and I put it on defrost for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, we've got our patties all made up, and we need our skillet just a little bit hotter than that. Turn that up just a little bit. Now, when you're cooking these, kind of just flatten them out a little bit on each side. You want to get them really good and brown. I mean really good and brown, okay? Because that's where your taste is going to come from. And they won't be completely done, so just know that they're going to finish cooking in the gravy. You want to try to get some really good ground chuck and try to make sure that it's 80% lean. Now, once they're browning, they're going to be browning on high, pretty much medium high now. And so that means they're going to be cooking pretty fast. So I'm going to put a screen over there, over the skillet, so that I don't get all that splattered grease all over my stove. But again, they'll finish cooking in the gravy. So when these get good and brown, we'll be back. Let me show you what they look like in the skillet. There they are in my Gordon Ramsay cookware. I love it. So you want to wait till they let go when you're browning them, and they will let go when they get brown enough, and you'll be able to easily turn them over. So I put my screen over them so I don't get grease all over my stove, and we'll be back. All right, my patties have completed browning. Now they are not done, okay? They're just really good and brown. And I have drained the grease from my skillet as much as I could get out. And to that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. Turn my heat down to sort of medium. And leave all the little brown things, that come off the meat in the skillet, because that's going to add to the flavor. Alright. Now, to this, I'm now going to add, this is 6 medium onions sliced. I'm going to add those to the skillet. I'm going to let those cook just a little while. Right, I'm going to let those cook for, I don't know, probably maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll be back to add the mushrooms. Now this is, again, 6 medium onions sliced, and remember this is going to be for 8 servings, so that might seem like a lot of onions, but it's really not. I'll be back. Alright, my onions have cooked down some now. And now I'm going to add 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms. I'm going to put those just on top of the onions. Now, while the onions were cooking, I used my little spatula here and did a lot of scraping on the bottom, because you want all those little brown bits to be in your gravy. Alright, we're going to dump these mushrooms on now. And just let them cook right on top of the onions for just a few minutes, and then we'll be back. Okay, my mushrooms and onions are probably 3/4 of the way done. Now to this, I'm going to add 3 cups of water, but before I put the water in, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And you want to dissolve that in the water. Now the water does have to be cold, otherwise it'll just make the lumps. So you want to make sure it's all dissolved. You see it's a milky color. Now once you heat all this up, it's going to turn clear. Just again, make sure you got it all dissolved. Okay, now if if you want thicker gravy, you'd want a little more cornstarch in there. Thinner, a little less. But anyway, this is 3 cups of just tap water. I'll turn my burner up to medium-high. I'm just going to stir this around a little bit. And once it starts boiling, I'm going to put my Salisbury steaks back into the skillet and cover it and let it simmer, just barely to a boil for 20 minutes, even 30 minutes would be okay. If your gravy gets too thick, you'll just add a little more water. If it's too thin, just put a teaspoon of cornstarch and a little bit of water, mix that up and pour it in. Don't try to dump this in just directly to something hot because it'll just make lumps. Now, a lot of people use beef bouillon in this. They use beef stock in it, but I use water and teriyaki sauce. So I'm going to put 1/4 cup. I know that seems like a lot, but remember we only put a little salt in the hamburger meat and no salt in the gravy so far. So now I'm just going to dump this in. So about 1/4 cup of teriyaki sauce. Now the substitute would be to add beef stock or to make up 3 cups of beef bouillon. That would work too, but I just particularly like the teriyaki sauce in it. Alright, that's almost to a boil now. Now we're going to go ahead and add the meat. Now remember, the meat is not completely done, okay? So this is going to finish cooking our little Salisbury steaks. So just put those all back in. And this is the reason we browned them really thoroughly, because they're going to add that much more taste to the gravy. And just fit those all in as best you can. Okay, now I'm ready to put the lid on this and just let it simmer for about 20 minutes. You don't want it boiling a whole lot, okay? Alright, and while that's simmering, I'm going to fix our cream potatoes, and we're going to have the little bitty frozen green peas and probably some garlic toast. So we'll be back. Alright, our lunch is ready. We're going to have some little frozen peas, which I love, cream potatoes, or really mashed potatoes, and a little garlic toast just made out of loaf bread because I don't have any other bread right now. And here is the Salisbury steak, and I wanted to show you what it looks like. There it is, kind of a big chunk, right? And here's the gravy with all the mushrooms and the onions. Now, if you want your gravy thicker than that, you could just, like boil it longer. But again, this will serve 8 people or make 8 servings, and it's just as easy to cook 2 servings as it is to cook 8 servings. This is what I do. I put 2 of the little Salisbury steaks in my little Pyrex dish here. After it's cooled, of course, put the lid on it, put it in the freezer. Then when I need a really quick meal, I take it out of the freezer, put it in the microwave on defrost for probably 10 or 15 minutes, then put it on reheat for another 5 or 10 minutes. And then you have a meal already ready. Okay, there my dogs are barking. So anyway, there's the meal. I hope you'll try it. Salisbury steak. Alright, here's the recipe for the Salisbury steak. You just put your computer on pause to read this. I think you can read it okay. Alright, let me go back up to the top again. Again, this will make 8 servings, and please make sure you get the lean chuck. To even lean ground round would work, but you definitely want it lean. Alright, see you next time.